My dear one, as you settle deeper into your resting place, let me tell you a story. It's a tale from a world of gentle magic and curious happenings. A story of a young boy named Harry, who embarked on a most unusual second year at a grand school called Hogwarts. Imagine a world where ancient castles stand tall and whispers of old secrets drift through its halls, waiting to be understood. Our story begins one summer, with Harry living with his Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon and their son Dudley. It was a rather quiet and uneventful time until one day a peculiar little house elf named Dobby appeared in Harry's room. Dobby, with his large, earnest eyes, seemed deeply concerned for Harry's safety. He gently warned Harry not to return to Hogwarts, explaining that great danger awaited him there. In his misguided efforts to protect Harry, Dobby caused a rather memorable cake to fall from a tray, creating a small commotion that unfortunately led to Harry being confined to his room by his uncle. But Harry had dear friends who would never let him be forgotten. One night, a wonderfully enchanted flying car, a Ford Anglia, arrived at his window. Inside were his friends, Ron, Fred, and George Weasley, who had come to rescue him. It was a most exhilarating journey, sailing through the ski in the soft moonlight, finally landing safely at their warm and welcoming home, the Burrow. There, Harry found a comforting family awaiting him, and he spent the remainder of his summer in a place filled with affection and the gentle chaos of magic. Soon, it was time to prepare for Hogwarts once more. A trip to Diagon Alley was in order, a magical street bustling with activity. It was there that Harry first encountered Gilderoy Lockhart, a famous and rather flamboyant wizard, who was to be their new defense against the dark arts teacher. He seemed very pleased with himself, always ready to sign an autograph. Then a peculiar incident occurred at King's Cross Station. Harry and Ron found themselves unable to pass through the magical barrier to platform 934. With no other choice, and with a brave spirit, they decided to take the flying car all the way to Hogwarts. It was a long journey, but eventually they arrived, gently crashing into a venerable whomping willow tree that stood on the school grounds. They received a gentle warning from Professor Dumbledore, but were allowed to stay. Life at Hogwarts resumed its familiar rhythm. Classes began, and Professor Lockhart, with his charming but perhaps not so effective teaching methods, certainly added a unique flavor to their days. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, as always, were inseparable. Yet an unsettling feeling began to creep into Harry's consciousness. He started to hear strange, disembodied whispers, faint voices that seemed to slither through the very walls of the castle, speaking of tearing and killing. These whispers were audible only to him, making him feel rather isolated in his worry. The first hint of trouble arrived during the school's dueling club, led by Professor Lockhart and Professor Snape. Draco Malfoy, a boy who often caused Harry a bit of bother, conjured a snake during the demonstration. Instinctively, Harry found himself speaking to the snake in a peculiar language, Parseltongue, the language of serpents. While he meant to calm the creature, others misunderstood, thinking he was somehow commanding it to attack. This incident cast a shadow of suspicion upon him, as it was widely known that the infamous Salazar Slytherin, one of Hogwarts's founders, was also a Parselmouth. Not long after, the castle was plunged into an alarming mystery. Mrs. Norris, the caretaker's beloved cat, was found petrified, frozen solid, but not harmed. A chilling message appeared on the wall, written in what looked like blood, proclaiming, The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the heir, beware." Professor Dumbledore, in his calm and wise manner, reassured everyone that all would be well. But the air in the castle grew heavy with unspoken fears. Harry, Ron, and Hermione knew they had to understand what was happening. They began to research the legend of the Chamber of Secrets. They learned that it was said to have been built by Salazar Slytherin himself, to house a monster that would purge the school of those he deemed unworthy. Hermione, ever resourceful, suggested a daring plan: to use a polyjuice potion to disguise themselves as Draco Malfoy's friends, Crabbe and Goyle, hoping to learn secrets from him. This potion, however, was quite complex to brew and took much patience and care. More troubling incidents followed. First, a young student named Colin Creevey was found petrified, his camera frozen mid-snap. Then in the girls' bathroom, where a rather mournful ghost named Moaning Myrtle resided, Harry discovered a small, rather old diary. It belonged to someone named Tom Riddle. When Harry tried to write in it, the diary wrote back, responding to his thoughts. It even showed him a memory from 50 years ago, revealing that Tom Riddle had Sultahan seemingly caught Rubeus Hagrid, the gentle keeper of keys and grounds, with a monstrous spider, and Hagrid was blamed for opening the chamber back then. As they slowly brewed their polyjuice potion, the mystery deepened. Soon, another student, Justin Finch Fletchley, and the kindly, nearly headless Nick, a ghost, were also found petrified. The school was abuzz with hushed conversations and growing fear. When the polyjuice potion was finally ready, Harry and Ron, transformed into Crabbe and Goyle, managed to speak with Draco Malfoy. From him, they learned that he didn't know who the heir of Slytherin was, and that the chamber had indeed been opened before. Unfortunately, Hermione's potion went awry, and she was unable to join them, as she accidentally transformed into a cat. The situation at Hogwarts became more tense. The Minister for Magic, Cornelius Fudge, arrived, accompanied by Lucius Malfoy, Draco's stern father. To Harry's dismay, Hagrid was taken away to Azkaban prison, based on the old accusation. Professor Dumbledore, too, was asked to step aside as headmaster. But as he left, he offered Harry a comforting thought, suggesting that help would always be given at Hogwarts to those who asked for it. Feeling rather desperate, Harry and Ron remembered Hagrid's words. "Follow the spiders." With brave hearts, they ventured into the Forbidden Forest, following a trail of small spiders, which led them to a vast, dark hollow. There, they encountered Aragog, an enormous, ancient spider who was once Hagrid's friend. Aragog revealed that he was not the monster of the chamber, and that the real creature was something ancient that spiders greatly feared. Just as things seemed quite perilous, the enchanted Ford Anglia, which had brought them to Hogwarts, appeared once more, gracefully rescuing them from the forest. Upon returning, they found another sorrowful scene. Hermione and Penny Clearwater had been petrified. However, Hermione, even in her frozen state, had managed to clutch a vital clue in her hand, a piece of paper describing the monstrous basilisk, a giant serpent whose gaze could kill, and how it moved through the school's plumbing. The final, most heartbreaking news arrived. Ginny Weasley, Ron's younger sister, had been taken into the Chamber of Secrets. The time for answers was over. It was now time for action. Harry and Ron, knowing where they had to go, first sought out Professor Lockhart. They hoped he might help, but quickly discovered he was preparing to flee, confessing that all his famous adventures were merely stories he had taken from other wizards. They persuaded him to come along, heading back to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Myrtle, in her usual melancholy way, pointed out where she had died many years ago, indicating a particular sink marked with a small snake. Harry, using Parseltongue, managed to open the hidden passage. Down they went, into the dark and winding depths of the chamber. Professor Lockhart, attempting to cast a memory charm on Harry and Ron, accidentally used Ron's broken wand, which backfired spectacularly. He lost his own memory completely, and a rockfall separated Harry from Ron. Alone, Harry pressed on, determined to find Ginny. He eventually came upon a vast, dark chamber, where Ginny lay still, and a ghostly young Tom Riddle stood watching over her. Tom Riddle revealed his true nature, sharing that he was not just a memory, but a fragment of himself preserved in the diary. He confessed that he was the heir of Slytherin, and his full name, when rearranged, spelled "I am Lord Voldemort." He had been manipulating Ginny, using her to open the chamber. He then summoned the monstrous creature, the basilisk. It was a truly ancient and enormous serpent, its scales shimmering in the dim light, its eyes holding a deadly power. Just when all seemed lost, a magnificent, fiery red bird, Fawkes, Professor Dumbledore's phoenix, soared into the chamber. Fawkes gracefully delivered the sorting hat to Harry. From within the hat, Harry bravely pulled out a glittering silver sword, the sword of Godric Gryffindor itself. With the help of Fawkes, who bravely pecked out the basilisk's eyes, blinding it, Harry engaged in a most courageous struggle. After a tense and arduous fight, he managed to plunge the sword deeply into the basilisk, ending its ancient reign of terror. But the danger was not over. A single, venomous fang from the basilisk pierced Harry's arm. He felt a deep chill spreading through him. Yet with his last burst of strength, he used the fang to stab the diary. As the ink spilled and a ghostly shriek echoed through the chamber, Tom Riddle's form began to fade, his power dissolving completely. With Riddle gone, Ginny slowly stirred, waking as if from a long slumber. Fawkes, the loyal phoenix, then shed a single, luminous tear upon Harry's wound, and to his wonder, the potent venom was healed, leaving no trace. With Ginny safe and Lockhart still rather dazed, Harry and Ron, guided by Fawkes, made their way back up to the castle. They arrived in Professor Dumbledore's office, where the wise headmaster greeted them with a gentle smile. Lucius Malfoy, furious that his plan had been foiled, appeared too, still clutching the diary. Harry, with a clever trick, used the diary to free Dobby, the little house elf, from Malfoy's cruel service, granting him the freedom he had always longed for. In the end, all the petrified victims, including Hermione, were wonderfully restored to their lively selves by a mandrake draught. Hagrid returned from Azkaban, his warm heart bursting with relief and joy. The school was once more filled with the sounds of laughter and the gentle hum of magic. The dark shadow lifted. Harry, Ron, and Hermione knew they had faced a truly great challenge, but they had overcome it with courage, friendship, and wisdom. And so, my dear one, the ancient secrets of the chamber were finally laid to rest, and peace returned to the grand halls of Hogwarts. All was calm, all was well. The moonlight now streams softly through your window, and the world outside rests quietly. Let your own mind drift into the peaceful stillness, knowing that courage always finds its way to a tranquil resolution, and even the deepest secrets eventually yield to understanding. Sleep soundly now, and dream of gentle wonders.